Good evening. My name is Howard Edelman. I'm your host for Israel and the Jewish World. Israeli leaders in the social, political, economic, and military life of the nation once came disproportionately from the 3% of Israelis raised on kibbutzim. This is no longer the case. To fill that vacuum in developing leadership, midrashim have emerged in the last few years. We'll introduce you to the leader of one, as well as several of the members. We'll also explore the leadership of Turkey. Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, a leader of the AKP Party and the current Prime Minister of Turkey. Is he a pragmatist or an Islamic ideologue in sheep's clothing? Or maybe both live uneasily side by side? Stay tuned as our academic experts help provide an answer, and Yossi comments on Moses as a Jewish leader. My guest is Micha Goodman. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Howard.
Micha, tell us where we are.
Well, we're in the middle of the Judea desert. It's kind of hot, but beautiful. We're in the middle of a vibrant campus, where most of the students around here are Israelis in their mid-20s. I would say between 22 and 28. Most of them are after the army service. Now, you see, Howard, most Israelis aren't as crazy as I was.
We'll get to your craziness later.
Yeah, well, I see. Right after the army, I went to university. But most Israelis don't do that. Most Israelis have a very serious need after the army to take a serious gap year, sometimes gap years, to separate between their army and what they call life.
And they travel around, they go to Tibet, they go everywhere.
They go everywhere. They go to South America, they go to Tibet, they go to... This is a campus where Israelis decided to spend that significant time in Israel, diving into themselves and empowering who they are as Jews and as people.
And that's what this is about? What's it called?
This is called Ein Prat.
And what does that mean?
It's the Israeli Academy for Leadership.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you something, Howard, leadership is a big word. Sometimes too big, and I feel that it's abused. Wherever you go today, you find an academy for leadership, seminars about leadership. Myself, I get invited 3 times a week for a lecture about leadership. And as you know, when a word is used too much, it's abused and inflated, and it loses its meaning. But I've come to believe that there is great leadership in Israel. Sometimes you don't find it up on top in the system. But we do find it now emerging from the bottom. There's a new wave of Israelis, Howard. They're in the mid-20s. Some of them are very exciting. They're true idealists. And they're bringing with them a new message for Israeliness and possibly for the Western civilization.
Well, we're going to get into that and hold on to that a bit, because that's, of course, why I'm here. I was here in Yom Kippur, and I was so impressed. I said, I have to come back and do a program on you, and the program you have here. But I want to learn more about you first. You trained as a philosopher.
That's right.
How did you go from philosophy to doing this kind of thing? You could have been an academic.
Well, I'll tell you, I think I'm a philosopher, but I'm a Jewish philosopher. And in a deep sense, a Jewish philosopher can't be completely embodied in only intellectual contemplation. A Jewish philosopher there's a great tradition of being highly involved in the community. And I'm not comparing myself to the giants of Jewish tradition like Maimonides or Nachmanides, but the greatest of the great models they presented for all of us to imitate is to be very serious and deep and sincere scholars. But your scholarship doesn't separate you from the world, rather it connects you to the world. And I'm trying to follow the footsteps of these giants.
What's your background? You speak English perfectly. Do you have an American background?
Well, I've never left Israel for more than a month. But my mom's from Oklahoma.
From Oklahoma? She danced in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
What was her family background?
Well, yeah, many times I get asked, what is a good Jewish girl
doing in Oklahoma?
doing in Oklahoma City?
She probably wasn't a good Jewish girl.
Well, actually, my mom comes from a very, very strict Catholic family, Howard.
I see. So I see. Okay, I have a hypothesis, but we'll test it out soon. So she didn't bring you up as a Catholic. Did she convert?
Yeah, well, she comes from a very intensive religious family.
Right. So
My
was
cousins
she
are
part?
priests.
I see.
My mom's uncle is high up. They're ranked in the Vatican. We're talking about a real old school Catholic family. If they were Jews, you would say that they were a Haredi Catholic family.
Are they part of this new evangelical
No.
Catholicism?
These are
not
Roman Catholics.
in the old traditional
These are
sense.
old school Christians.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about, and my mom was raised with a very great religious passion. But back in the 60s, when they were rebelling against any institution, there was also a piece in that great spiritual movement in the 60s, where they were rebelling against religious institutions. And she found herself like a good rebel in Bolivia. She joined Kennedy's Peace Corps.
Oh, did she become part of the liberal Catholicism? And
No, she overcame everything. She was there to save the world, and she met there a young Jew that obviously wanted to save the world too. A young Jew from Massachusetts. It's a long story. We'll make it short. They got married. They came to Israel for a year, and I guess they never left ever since. She converted. Ever since I'm 16, when I start to realize that I have this gigantic, rich, intellectual, and passionate family in the United States that's very Catholic, that believes in God but as Jesus Christ as our Savior,
right.
I realized the fact that I'm a Jew is an accident. I could have been, and I have charismatic cousins preaching Catholicism. And ever since I'm 16, I'm asking myself one question: is this an accident or does this have meaning? And I started, ever since I was 16, I started this great search asking myself, why am I a Jew? Does God exist? What is the meaning of the Torah? And I've been going on this search ever since, and I think what I'm doing here, Howard, is I've invited people to join my search. And I've been lucky enough to have great colleagues and great students to join me on this search.
You're a good Jesuit Jew. I have to tell you,
I won't quote that.
I went to St. Michael's College for my undergraduate.
Really?
Yeah, well, because it was a medical school and then switched to arts, and it was in St. Mike's. And therefore I was involved in a whole group of priests and nuns for 2 years. We had a group together.
Wow.
So I know lots about Catholicism because I was very interested in it, and without being attracted to being a Catholic at all.
Mm-hmm.
But, and you know, Simone Weil, there's a whole history of Jews being attracted. And my first published article was on Jews who became or converted or were attracted to Catholicism.
Wow.
And you came the other way. But, I mean, you were brought up in it, but you've somehow we probably imported some of those traits into
It's like, especially the fact that it was never trivial to me that I'm a Jew. And that, I think, keeps me alive philosophically for the past few years.
Did you ever meet Gregory Baum, by the way? You know, Gregory Baum, there's an old joke that Emil Fackenheim converted Gregory Baum to Catholicism because they spent time when they went to Canada as displaced people, and during the war they were Germans by nationality, so they kept in a camp that was run like a university. And Gregory got interested in the medieval world. And
Emil Fackenheim.
So, not really, but the idea was that Emil did this. So it's interesting, the blending that comes out, and it might be that it's influenced the necessity of institutionalizing all kinds of things, which is the great strength of Catholicism, after all.
Absolutely.
Is to institutionalize it in a coherent way. We tend to be very anarchic among the Jewish institutions, and creating coherence is hard.
It's tough, but actually I find that being the power of Judaism, the fact that there is no real establishment, there is no institution, and that we don't only devote ourselves to Judaism, we also are creating what is the essence of Judaism at the same time. I find that something very attractive in Judaism that you don't have in the Catholic world.
Well, I want to get into the ideology that you have behind this, because you say it's creating leadership, etc., and how you do this, how do you create this leadership, and what the philosophy is about it. But I want to take a break first, because to get into it is going to take a little bit of time, and I don't want to interrupt you just as you start
Okay.
off. So we'll break now.